controversial Porsche Carrera Cup race is behind us. An absolutely vital British Touring Car Championship race is next on the schedule here at a wet and blustery national circuit at Silverstone. Earlier in the day, Matt Jackson led home a Chevrolet 123 in round 22. Now it's our build-up to round 23, and we'll join Louise.
Yeah, down on still a very murky grid with Dick Bennett from Team RAC. These really are the worst conditions for you guys, isn't it? If it was throwing down with rain, fine. If it was dry, fine. But this in between is a nightmare.
Very true, Louise. Roll on the English summer. Yeah, it's not the best for us because of the rear-wheel drive situation. If it's very wet or very dry, no problems. But damp conditions, the cars have just done an extra lap because of the damp, and I think we've got to go on slicks, but you know, it's what happens during the race. If it gets too greasy, then we just can't generate the tyre temperature.
And then what are your options as a four-wheel drive car?
Basically, we've got to stay. It's just, it takes too long to come in, you know, and change on wets. You've just got to hang on in there and see what happens.
Okay, right, well, let's go and grab a word with some of the drivers, see what they think about it. I want to have a word with Rob Collard. I know he was a bit frustrated after the first race. Started on the front row of the grid, ended up down in 6th position. Bit first race for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a disappointment race one. We had great speed in qualifying yesterday. We really kicked up a gear, and you know, we didn't quite have the perfect setup for race one, but the engineers have been really working hard, and the car's feeling good for race.
You done?
Well, it started to slip with rain at the moment, so we just generally softened the whole car to make the tyres work harder.
I know, though, what's important for you, and you did it in that last round, was actually to bring the car home in one piece. That's a good result.
Yes, absolutely. You know, for Airways BMW, we need to score points. We've dropped down in the championship from where we are. We've had two very bad meetings where just been knocked off in every race. So race one was important to bring the car home strong in a good points position.
Okay, we'll keep it clean in this next one. Let's go and grab a word with Fabrizio Giovanardi. Another man who wasn't terribly happy with the car in round one, managed to move up to 5th place, but struggling with a bit of straight line speed. Yep.
Yeah, we've been struggling the first race because we know we carried some ballast that we were not fast. I believe that now we change the performance because the car in front, they will have more ballast, they will have less. So I expect more fighting for this race.
So you reckon you're going to be able to get up with Turkington, the man just starting alongside you, because he's the man you're really chasing, isn't he?
Of course, baby.
Tell us how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I have to stay in front. Colin and Jason, that are the two drivers to fight with at the moment, and then we see.
Clearly very relaxed. Let's just go and grab a quick word with Colin Turkington. Now, he was happy with his car. I had a quick chat with Colin while he was having a little bit of a pasta earlier on, and he basically said to me, as far as the setup was concerned, that all you were going to do was tickle it. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's all we've done. You know, the pace was quite good in the first race, so you know, we've made a few small changes, looking for a bit more pace. So you know, fingers crossed, I can you know, give the Chevrolets a run for the money.
How difficult is it going to be to catch those Chevrolets, though? Because they are quick, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very good on the back straight. You know, they're very quick in a straight line, and there's also 3 of them. So you know, I don't want to be the meat in a sandwich, so I'm just going to have to play it by ear.
Start, I guess, is your best option to get them.
Yeah, there's a good run down to the first corner. Again, the Chevrolets are quite good off the line. You know, I didn't make much progress in the first race, but it's a bit more greasy now, so hopefully I can lead.
Okay, have a good one. Let's go up to Ben in the commentary box. He's got Tim Harvey with him, and I think Tim's going to have some interesting things to tell us after that last race.
Well, actually, we're still waiting for Tim to get here, so he's still making his way over from the Porsche, finishing that Porsche race to get up here for the touring car race. So at the moment, actually, he's just coming in now. So we'll grab a quick word with him in a second and get his word on that, what happened in that last race, and we shall then turn our attention to the touring cars. Tim, talk us through that. Sorry, mate, that happened, because you were having such a great race, the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously the conditions were changing. We were sort of pacing it lap by lap. I think we were going reasonably well because we were catching James a little bit, but I had the situation under control, and well, I was just turning into the corner and Tim tapped me around. So we'll have to see what the clerk of the course makes of it.
Yeah, there's the other view.
I mean, ultimately, you know, Tim hasn't made the apex, so I think he's gone in way too quick and just tapped me around. But I think he took Michael Caine out as well, so I think he'll have some explaining to do. But obviously, from a championship point of view, it's devastating because.
No, quite. We've been talking about that, how finely balanced that championship is. One non-finish for one of you, and suddenly it all changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the annoying thing is I raced like that with Michael in the first race yesterday all day, and we never touched each other once, and it was fair and gentlemanly racing, and that was a little bit too touring cars.
Well, talking of which, they are on the grid, and I saw you were talking to a couple of the touring car teams on your way. They're busy grilling you for what tyres they should be on.
Yeah, everybody came up and asked me what tyres to run, and to be honest, it was impossible to answer, because during the course of our race, there were times when it would have been better to be on wets, and there were times when it was clearly better on dries, but overall it was better on dries, and the drizzle has stopped now, so I'd be amazed if everybody isn't on slicks.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've got no drizzle on the screen of our commentary box, which it was when you were out there racing, so most of them I think are on slick tyres and ready to go off on this formation lap. It is Matt Jackson who is going to lead them away, of course, after that victory earlier on, but he now carries 45 kilos of ballast. Jason Plato will be starting in second place, and of course the third of those three Chevys, James Nash, the youngster who's putting in such a brilliant first season, not even a full season so far, in that third RML run car. Turkington getting away safely as well. So let's take a look at the way they line up then. It is Matt Jackson on pole once again, as he was for the first race of the day. Jason Plato this time starts alongside him, so it could be a battle between them into the first corner. Second row, we've got James Nash, and then the championship leader in the Team RAC car, Colin Turkington. But Turkington only has one place over big rival Fabrizio Giovanardi, who starts fifth, and Rob Collard, who could be fast off the line in the Airwaves car, in sixth place. Behind them, we've got the second Team RAC machine of Stephen Jelly and Johnny Adam next door, so two BMWs together. Then Paul O'Neill, he lines up in ninth, ahead of Matt Neal, who was struggling a bit for pace earlier on. Tom Chilton in the Team Aon Ford Focus is determined to get in the points in this one. Andrew Jordan is alongside him. Then it's Johnny Herbert, still in his first ever touring car weekend, of course, for Team Dynamics. Harry Volkard is 14th on the grid. 15th, Martin Bell, and then next to him, John George lines up in 16th. 17th on the grid for David Pinkney in the second Team Dynamics car. Martin Johnson's had an engine change for this one after laying an oil slick earlier. Anthony Reid and Tom Onslow Cole, the two cars that tangled in the first race, they start at the back. So the cars making their way round on the formation lap. Let's see if we can have a quick word with Jason Plato. Jason, Ben and Tim up in the commentary box here. What are the plans for this one then?
Hi guys. Well, the plan is to get some good points in the bag. I mean, you know, Matt's gained 45 kilos, which is a big change from race one. So I've got to be looking for a win, I think.
And what about the conditions?
Yeah, they're a bit slippery, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Actually, there's still. I think once the tyres get at the temperature after maybe couple laps, then it'll be business as usual. Anyway. Bugger off, I've got stuff to do.
Yep, have a good one. So, he's getting busy, he's lining up on the grid any moment, Tim.
Yeah, good of him to talk to us. He's just coming up to the line. He's got a lot to think about in these conditions. How many revs to give it, how much clutch to give it. Not easy.
No, absolutely. It's he's got to experiment with it. You can see him hanging back a little bit here as he just gets a feel for the level of grip off that grid. But it is his teammate Matt Jackson who's on the pole position. James Nash third on the grid. Then it's Turkington versus Giovanardi, the championship battle. Paul O'Neill into the pits. Now, do you think he had wets on that car?
It's Martin Bell, actually.
Ah, Martin Bell, the other one.
And John George. Now, whether they've gone out on wets and decided they need slicks is probably what I suspect.
Yeah, quite likely. They went perhaps for the gamble and they decided it's not going to work, so they've come straight into the pits, but everyone else is lined up on the grid. So the cars are ready then for this second race of the day. Green flag from the back of the grid, all in position except for Martin Bell and John George, who've nipped into the pits. Matt Jackson's going to try and get off the line first, but he's got Jason Plato to battle. Away we go then, and who's going to be getting off the grid? Well, Jackson is good off pole. Plato reasonable, but here comes Turkington. Turkington up to third already. Rob Collard's trying to follow him, and it's James Nash who loses out a bit. Watch the BMWs battling down on the inside. It's going to be tight there. Turkington is in third, Collard in fourth. Nash has been pushed back to fifth, and Giovanardi's trying to go around the outside.
Yeah, Adam down the inside as well. There's a BMW freight train down the inside, but Plato got that away perfectly. Turkington's at least gained a couple of places. Here we go, down the inside, Johnny Adam on Giovanardi.
Yeah, Giovanardi in the outside, and the Vauxhall could get squeezed out here, but Johnny Adam very clean racer, and he just gives him enough room. You're on board with Giovinazzi, and that is Johnny Adam to your right, as meanwhile James Nash is ahead in the Chevrolet, and they're heading down towards the left-hander of Brooklands. Brake lights come on, and Matt Jackson's got away up front once again, but Giovinazzi closing in on Nash, and I think he's dispatched Johnny Adam.
Yeah, he definitely hung Johnny out to dry, and he's pushing up the inside of Nash on the inside there.
Oh, Giovinazzi's going for it once again. He's got past Nash. It is Matt Jackson who leads this race. Jason Plato in second, then Colin Turkington in third place. Collard in fourth, but Giovinazzi already up in that fifth place, and he's still pushing on here. He's going to try and find a way to catch Collard. Johnny Adam, meanwhile, under pressure from Stephen Jelly.
Yeah, a lot of pressure there. The BMWs take a few laps to get the real heat into their tyres. Don't get, it's a little bit colder. We've just had some drizzle, so they'll be fighting amongst themselves to get the heat in the tyres, while Giovinazzi tries ever so hard to make as many gains as he can in the first couple of laps.
He is mighty, isn't he, on these colder tyres and the damp conditions, and he just took so much speed there into Beckett's, but couldn't quite convert it into getting alongside. Down the straight they come here, and you can see that Turkington's being a little bit defensive to the inside. Collard's still behind him. We're following Collard here on board Giovinazzi, and remember, this is where he got past Nash, and he's going to have a little look at doing the same thing again, and he might well have done it. No, he hasn't. Collard's still there.
Yeah, he tried to give him that little push to send him wide so he could then drive around the inside, but Collard wasn't having any of it.
So it stays status quo. Jackson leads, Plato in second place, and Plato just got a slightly quicker lap that time around, with Turkington there sitting in third, but Airwaves car of Collard is breathing down his neck. Little to choose between these two BMWs, and right behind them, of course, the double champion Fabrizio Giovinazzi. James Nash is still in sixth place, Johnny Adam in seventh, Stephen Jelly in eighth, Andrew Jordan is in ninth, Matt Neal is in 10th, then it's Paul O'Neill, Tom Chilton and Johnny Herbert who's in 13th place.
Yeah, just see how close Collard was, the back of Turkington. Don't forget, he can't see the bonnet, let alone the front of the car, and he must have only been 3 or 4 inches off the back of Turkington's bumper. That
takes some judgment, doesn't it, at these kind of speeds. Into the left-hander of Brooklands, there was a little lock-up from Plato ahead of them. I don't think that was any kind of problem. And look at Giovinazzi again. Oh, there's a little bit of... How did he go sideways there? Giovinazzi's going to try and take advantage. Oh, this time, big old sideways, but Giovinazzi's going to lose a place, if not two. One place he loses.
Yeah, well, Giovinazzi actually straightened out Collard there, fortunately, otherwise he'd have been rotated, but obviously he would have preferred not to have had the contact at all, and now Collard's under serious attack from Jordan.
Yeah, Andrew Jordan with the other Vauxhall trying to get through, and down the inside is Paul O'Neill there, also joining in Tom Chilton in the Team A on Focus, and Johnny Herbert not far behind them as well. So it's all changed a little bit. Nash has gained a place, he's up to 4th, Giovinazzi's back into 5th place, but up front there's no change. It's still Matt Jackson leading from Jason Plato, and Giovinazzi absolutely fired up. Turkington, of course, is still his main rival in a way, and Turkington sits in 3rd. This little gaggle of cars, you can see something going wrong here, can't you?
Yeah, Giovinazzi, oh, he's under pressure here.
Matt Neal and Collard, isn't it?
Yes, Matt Neal and Collard. Oh,
what a shame.
Yes, I know exactly how that feels.
Yeah, you had that a few moments ago, didn't you? Right, so what's going on here? Collard's still there, with Chilton now trying to get past him on the inside. Collard definitely fired up after his earlier coming together with Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi now trying to get past that Chevrolet of Nash. Here we go. Across the line they all come. Collard and Chilton. Chilton's going to try and get down the inside into Cobb's corner. One of the bravest on the brakes, and he's through. And Andrew Jordan's going to try and follow him as well.
Yeah, they're all ganging up on Collard, aren't they? Whether he's got some damage maybe to the suspension from that earlier contact, but he's really struggling to hold his place now.
Johnny Herbert's in that group too, and he's gained 1. He's up to 12th now. But he's desperate to try and get in the top 10, obviously. All these guys want to be in the top 10, but Herbert, there he is with the flashes on the car. He's got ahead of Harry Volkard on that last lap, and now he's trying to join in with Paul O'Neill and Matt Neal. Meanwhile, Giovinazzi's right there with James Nash. And up front, by the way, Jackson and Plato. Plato definitely catching. Giovinazzi having a little look, nibble at the inside. No, he can't quite do it there.
Well, he's got half the car on the dirt, hasn't he? So the driver in front isn't necessarily expecting it. But
looking back here at the incident between Giovinazzi and Collard, remember when Collard was tucked in behind Turkington?
Yeah, Collard is right up behind the back of Turkington and gets a little slide there. I'm not sure, I don't think there was any contact initially there. No. Giovinazzi tries to go down the inside, punts him sideways. sideways and then straightens him up, fortunately, to keep Collard in the race. And this is with Collard and Neil. Collard down the inside, struggling to stop the car. Matt turns in and gets tapped out.
So Matt Neal's out of the race and walking back to the pits, thankfully not far from there. Look at how the leaders are closer. Jackson still leading, Plato closer than he was. Still Turkington in third, and it's still Giovanardi attacking.
Now watch Giovanardi here. He goes down an extra gear here and then snatches another gear right on the exit. So he uses second gear just to give him that extra bit of retardation. He's bullying Nash.
He's trying to get up the inside, he's trying to give that little bit of a nudge, but has he done enough? I think he might have done. He's got the inner line, but James Nash has still got the overlap, I think. This is going to be tight. The youngster Nash does not give quarter to anybody. He might be a double champion, but no, he is through. He has got the place. Giovanardi's into fourth.
Yeah, Giovanardi is mighty through that Brooklands Luffield sequence, and because the car hasn't got the greatest straight line speed, he can't overtake in the two other places. So he's using the car's strength to get past.
Now, we're just looking at what happened to O'Neill going wide a moment ago, and I think what happened to Johnny Herbert, he was on the outside. No, he cut back through. So he gained a place there. So Johnny in 11th now.
Yeah, he read that really well, didn't he? He obviously saw that O'Neill was running wide and just managed to come back. This is Giovanardi passing Nash and having given him a tap at Luffield, and he's just got enough pace to get up the inside on the brakes.
Now up front, I gather that Plato has caught Jackson, and they're side by side. Yes, they are. Plato's going to try and take that lead. He's on the inside, is Jason Plato. Remember, Jackson's got more ballast on his car. There's not much to choose between them, though, as they come across the line down towards Cops Corner. Plato on the inside, and he squeezes ahead of teammate Matt Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson did a brilliant job at the start, getting away and building a 2.5 lead, but it was Plato that set the fastest lap on lap 4, and as you'd expect, that extra weight in Jackson's car just playing a little bit of a toll, and Plato's hunted him down and got through.
Yeah, a bit earlier on the brakes into Beckett's, but he gets the drive out of the corner. You can see that was quite effective. Matt Jackson back into second place, but they'll be pretty happy about that. Turkington's still in third. Remember, Giovanardi's up there in fourth. So if you're looking at championship contenders, well, they're all up in the mix because Plato still has that outside chance. Matt Neal with the off in this race, I think, even mathematically, he must be pretty much out of it now.
Yeah, well, we're hearing that race controller complaining to Plato's team that his rear brakes lights aren't working. Well, it's an offence not to have the lights working. Will they black flag him, and will he obey? Let's have a look, see if his lights come on going into blocks. We'll see if we can see it. Watch, watch, watch. You'll see both cars. Yes, they are. Oh, there was hardly used the brakes, though, did he?
No, not on for very long, but it did.
He obviously fooled race administration by hardly using the brakes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Plato leading, Jackson in second, Turkington staying with the Chevys at the moment in third. So despite the pace from the Chevrolets, Colin Turkington is doing what he needs to do, which is be ahead of his other big rival, Giovanardi, who's back in the next group. There he is, leading the next group. Stephen Jelly getting involved too now as well. We've got Johnny Adam as well, and Johnny Herbert tucked in behind Andrew Jordan there by the looks of things. And there could be a change in the background. James Nash still wants his place back from Giovanardi, but he's also got to watch out for Stephen Jelly in 6th place.
Yeah, that was more of a defensive move against Jelly than really an attacking move against Giovanardi. But Giovanardi is only nearly 2 seconds behind Turkington, so he's going to have to soak up the pressure, and Turkington is really latching onto the back of Jackson and Plato.
So Plato leads, Jackson, then Turkington, Giovanardi next up, there he is, then Nash and Jelly, followed by Adam, then Chilton going well, followed by Collard, who's still in it, and then Jordan, then O'Neill and Herbert. So O'Neill's just got back past Johnny Herbert, and Johnny finds himself back in 12th position.
Yeah, that Honda Integra, remember, was a fantastic car around here. Many, many wins when it was in the Halfords Dynamic colours. This is on board Johnny Herbert, really getting stuck into touring car action. Going a little bit wide, trying to cut back and get a good exit. He holds it tight. Look, he's gaining momentum, He's getting the hang of front-wheel drive very quickly.
Yeah, it's good to see. He's really getting in the mix, isn't he? And it's he's up against some good young drivers here. Paul O'Neill, of course, we know how well he's done recently. O'Neill's on the inside, Johnny's on the outside. Andrew Jordan in the third Vauxhall is still leading this particular group, and Johnny's learning to use the curb.
Yeah, that's a bit of Silverstone he's never driven over before, isn't it?
Yeah, not a Formula One car. And look at the two ahead of him, O'Neill and Jordan. That could be exciting too. So he really is a part of this. And this is vital because Andrew Jordan is currently in 10th place. And as we know, we could get as many as 10 cars reversed on the grid for race 3, so it's crucial to try and get into the top 10.
Well, we've definitely got a bit of drizzle coming back. It looks like it's up at Beckett's, where there's part of the track they're approaching now. This is where it can get very slippery first.
Well, O'Neill went wide there and he's allowed Johnny through. Look, Johnny's got that place. So he's nipped past. That's put Johnny up into 11th place again. And Paul O'Neill, just that little mistake through Cox.
Yeah, tiny mistake again. A bit the drizzle maybe catching him out. And he's got good straight line speed from that Neil Brown engine Honda.
Yeah, and he's dicing with the man he did earlier on, Andrew Jordan, the new member of the Vauxhall team earlier this year, only in his second full season himself of British touring cars, of course. But it must feel good to be racing against Johnny Herbert with his tremendous heritage in motorsport. A Le Mans winner, of course, Johnny Herbert, all the way back in 1991. He won that Le Mans race, driving for Mazda. Those Grand Prix victories he's had. He's a speed car champion as well in 2008. He really has raced a vast variety of cars. Turkington going a bit wide there through Cobbs. He's still in 3rd place.
Yeah, you get on, and so too Nash, Chilton. It's definitely drizzling there. Look, they've got the wipers on. This is going to really shake things up now. They're going to have to drive on eggshells, wind the brake bias a bit more to the rear. Be very, very careful.
Pollard is back ahead of Adam, so Pollard now in 8th place, Johnny Adam in 9th. Still 10th is being held by Andy Jordan, with Johnny Herbert right behind him, and then Paul O'Neill, which is wonderful. And they're being caught that lot as well. I think David Pinkney's up there as well, so there's Anthony Reid, Tom Onslow, Cole there in that next group too. So all these guys to keep an eye on, but the windscreen wipers, as you say, Tim, they're working hard now.
Yeah, and they'll get to a point where the front-wheel drive cars just suddenly lose grip at the rear, and that's when it gets really marginal.
Could be interesting for Johnny Herbert to experience that for the first time.
Look at Turkington, he's right up behind, oh no, that's Jelly up behind Nash, but up in front, look, there's Turkington right behind Jackson.
You're right, yeah, Turkington's really up with the Chevrolet and Matt Jackson, so the BMW seem to be really coming good in these treacherous conditions as the drizzle comes down, but can they make it work? In the background, Chilton in 8th place, running a bit wide through Cops, but no problem, he stays in position. You can run wide and get away with it there. Plenty of runoff on the exit of that fast corner.
Well, Nash is taking the wide, wet line. Turkington a little bit unsure which is going to be the quickest exit. Of course, and buried in the barrel, that's Matt Neal.
So he
went off ages ago.
Yeah, did he get back out again? That was odd. I hadn't realised he was still running, actually.
No.
But he's got back out twice.
Yeah, I'm amazed. So it seems to have more traction in the gravel, that car, than it does on the road at the moment.
He's going to make life interesting for the leaders who were just coming up behind him. This was the off. So that was on his own. It was just the slippery surface that caught him out. They're about 4 seconds off what they were doing, or 3 seconds off what they were doing when it was drier. A bit like your race, Tim, similar conditions, because you dropped about 5 seconds from your best dry time, so similar.
Yeah, I think it's raining harder now. That's Matt Neal throwing a load of gravel out in front of these cars as well. So
look at the championship contenders absolutely together now. Turkington in 3rd and Giovanardi in 4th. Oh, and Turkington had a big slide through Cobb's corner. That's where rear-wheel drive cars at a disadvantage, and he's going to be passed. He's going to be passed by his great rival Giovanardi. That was just a bit too much power at Cobb's. He had to lift. As you say, Tim, in a front-wheel drive car, he could have kept his boot in, but he couldn't.
No, he couldn't, and he's really struggling. It seems like the front-wheel drive cars are keeping a little bit more temperature in their front tyres. Generally, in these conditions, you'd have the front-wheel drive cars with slicks on the front, wets on the rear.
But in the background, Jelly has got past Nash, interestingly. Giovanardi's got past Jackson there. Just sort of driven past him, outbraked him into Brooklands, virtually on the outside.
Yeah, I think we've got the stage now where the BMs are really struggling with their tyres. Temperature's gone out of the tyres and they can't keep up the pace.
Oh, no, it's Matt Neal, sorry, my mistake. It's Matt Neal in the middle there, confusing things. Yeah. Matt Neal between the two Chevys, so Giovanardi's still sitting 3rd. Giovanardi in the Vauxhall in 3rd place, ahead of Turkington, who's in 4th place. And Matt Neal just confusing the issue. That first Vauxhall, well, take him out of the picture because he's a lap down now, having been off into the gravel twice.
Yeah, I mean, he should be getting blue flagged and getting out of the way, really, but it's because he could impede the others. John George pulling off or having had a spin.
Yeah, maybe he had a
spin. Maybe he should have stuck on the wet tyres. He couldn't even change.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing, yeah. It looks as though he might rejoin. Well, there might be tyres ready, but I don't really see anybody coming in to change, do you?
No, Neal off again.
Well, I did say get him out of the picture. Well, he's got himself out of the picture, so he won't confuse me anymore.
Matt is a great driver in these conditions, as we've seen many times in the past. So if it's difficult for him, you can imagine it is very difficult for everyone else.
So there you are. You've got Plato, Jackson, Giovanardi, Turkington, and then Stephen Jelly doing well in this race. Jelly up to 5th, ahead of Nash. Then Chilton, Collard, and there's Andrew Jordan ahead of Johnny Adam now. So that's a gain for Andrew Jordan up to 9th place. Adam down to 10th. O'Neill, Johnny Herbert, Dave Pinkney. The two Team Dynamics cars are virtually together now.
Yeah, Pinkney's caught up on the battle and his private little battle with his Formula 1 teammate.
Yep, enjoying that, I'm sure. And we've got still some 7 laps to go. 15 laps have been completed. We're on lap 16 out of 22. Lap times have dropped right off now. We're almost 10 seconds off the dry weather pace, so that shows you it really is. It would be wet now, wouldn't it?
No, definitely. If it's 10 seconds slower, then you know that the wets is the tire to be on. So this is playing slightly into the hands of the front-wheel drive cars because they keep a little bit more temperature in their front tyres. But a great battle. See if Giovanardi can catch Plato and Jackson.
Yeah, let's see whether he can. You're on board with Giovanardi now, trying to hunt down those two Chevrolets ahead. What a chance this could be.
If we can listen to his gear changes.
Yeah, into Brooklands. Plato was very wide. So still listening up to those gear changes. Look at Jackson's looking for the grip on the outside.
Yeah, he's hunting out the grip. Generally when it's when you're on wet tyres, the grip is better on the outside, but on the slicks I found in my race, in fact when he got greasy, the best grip was actually in tight on the normal line.
Interesting, yeah. And it looked like, sounded like he got a wheel on the curve there around the Luffield, so that gave him a bit too much wheel spin. Down into Kopp's corner, watch the line. Yeah, he's not tucking right in tight, but he's also not staying right around the edge, sort of middle line there. Windscreen wiper still on Plato's car. Jelly coming under a bit of pressure. Now this is interesting. Has he lost? Yes, he's lost the place.
Oh, he's gone.
He's out. He's lost it right in front of Collard. Oh, and he gets it pointed the right way again. Yeah. Well, a bit of a recovery.
Well, more luck and good judgment possibly, but
Johnny Herbert just got ahead of O'Neill there as well during all that,
yeah.
I think.
Good stuff, Johnny Herbert, up to 12.
This was the slide. Look at it. One way, then the other.
Yeah, the problem is that the BMW is trying to push its way forward, and of course, as soon as it starts to spin those wheels, the pendulum effect just takes over. Whereas when the wheels spin on the front-wheel drive car, it's still pulling itself forward. Oh, Jackson sliding the car nicely.
Yeah, nicely. Probably more than he meant to, but he held it nicely, didn't he? Giovanardi's still right there. 3rd place. Still a few laps to go here. Turkington in 4th, Nash in 5th, Jelly now out of 6th, so that's brought, I think it'll bring Chilton. We'll have to check that next time around. But Chilton's, if he's still there, definitely moving up the order. On board with Johnny Herbert. So there's been some changes here. Chilton is 6th now, Jordan up to 7th, Adam is 8th, Johnny Herbert's 9th, Pollard is in 10th, and you're on board with Johnny Herbert with the BMW behind. And Johnny is into that top 10, which is what he wants.
Yeah, that jelly spin really handed it to Johnny Herbert. He took advantage of the situation, and great to see him running in the top 10.
Giovanardi attacking Jackson for 2nd place with a very different version of the line out of Beckett's.
Yeah, a very tight line there. You must have heard my commentary.
So he's trying it. He's trying to look for the grip. Plato's still out in front. Giovanardi a bit closer again. Oh, this is his favourite spot coming up here, Tim. Oh, and Jackson's very, very, very sideways, and he has to give the place up. No doubt about it. Giovanardi uses the mud to help slow the car down as well.
Yeah, there's definitely more grip on the inside. Jackson's been looking at those outside lines, which, as I say, works when you're on wet tyres, but on the slicks, it doesn't seem to work.
No, and they're doing lap times of around 69 seconds. In the wet last year, they were doing 68 on their wet tyres. It just shows that definitely they'd be better off on their wets now. Turkington still holding on gamely in the rear-wheel drive BMW in 4th. Nash is in 5th. Chilton in 6th place in the Focus. This is great news for them. Behind them, Andrew Jordan, then Johnny Adam. There's Johnny Herbert, he's running 9th. Collard is in 10th. O'Neill 11th, Volkart behind him, and Jelly's still going, he's in 13th.
Yeah, and Anthony Riedel in the 3rd RAC car, he's 14th. Obviously, he started from the back after the first one.
Yeah, Onslow Cole as well from the back. He's running in 15th place. But still, we've got, we're on lap 19 out of 22. A little bit of time still to go. Giovanardi, can he catch Plato? Now, that's the big question. He's got past Jackson, but Plato seems to be finding the grip quite well at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing a very good job actually, but I have to have a hat off to Turkington because, as we've seen, the BMW is probably the most difficult car to drive, but he's holding a good 4th place.
Johnny Herbert in the Dynamics car, getting closer to Johnny Adam. Of course, Johnny Adam, that is, in the BMW, as we know, the car not ideal in these conditions. Johnny Herbert might well be able to take advantage here if he can just find a bit of grip. Johnny Adam going very wide, looking for some traction.
Yeah, Herbert's lap time is very good in these conditions. He's got a great feel. Remember, he did a lot of karting, has a great feel for slippery surfaces and cold tyres, and certainly this is going to teach him more about front-wheel drive car control than anything else. And again, his lap time is very competitive.
Yeah, he's doing an impressive job so far in his debut, is Johnny, and there is Giovanardi. Always impressive, I think, up into 2nd place now, still experimenting with using a bit of curve, bit of the outer edges of the circuit. He does it more than virtually anybody. Clever stuff, but he's not really closing on Plato. Plato's maintaining that gap at about just under 2 seconds. Jackson still holding 3rd. We're on board with Johnny Herbert. Now Pinkley's ahead of it. Oh, he's
come out of the pits, yeah. But, I mean, Johnny Herbert's last lap time within a 1/10 of a second of Giovanardi in 2nd place. So that just shows he is really getting the most out of the car in these conditions.
So he's 9th at the moment, is Johnny. And still trying to close up on Johnny Adam. Adam had a bit of a slide there, but actually over the last lap, Adam got away slightly. So Johnny missed out a touch. Collard is behind. He was already behind anyway. Collard looking for a wide line himself. And still a couple of laps to go here as they cross the line. Still Plato leading this one. There is the white and blue Chevrolet of Jason Plato, followed by the red and white Vauxhall. Vauxhall, of course, going into their final few events in British touring cars. We know they're leaving at the end of the season. They still very much want to end on a high note. Paul O'Neill keeping well out of the way. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he's dropped way down the order.
Yeah, Martin Bell's come back out of the pits, so he's circulating, just letting the leaders through. This is the battle, though, between Nash and Chilton.
Yeah, indeed. And Turkington's still ahead of them, but he has lost a bit of ground to them in the last lap or so in the BMW, as we know, struggling a bit with that. So let's see whether he can hold on. Paul O'Neill in the background, by the way, is still in 11th place. So let's take a look at that. Johnny Herbert, in fact, yes, there you are. There's Collard and then O'Neill behind. So just outside that possible reverse grid position, which is what he wants to be in. Tom Chilton here, well, he's got 5th as a possibility if he can get past this Chevrolet.
Yeah, that would be a great result, really would. I mean, as we said, the team has shown good pace. And in fact, when we've had wet sessions in the past at Knock Hill, the last meeting in the wet, they were very quick. So there's obviously that gives the driver a lot of confidence.
Yeah,
it's a late dive. Oh, great move. Can he put it off? Oh, he's going to run wide, he's going to lose momentum.
Yeah, James Nash, I think he's going to get it back, isn't he? Well, they're still side by side as they head up towards Maggots. This is the final lap of the race. Chilton's throwing everything he can. Oh, no, inevitable contact there. And Chilton just gets it going. Well, that's going to be one for the stewards to look at as well.
Yeah, well, there should be room for 2 cars to go in there side by side, but obviously from that camera angle, you can't see their relative positions on the track. But nevertheless, Plato is going to come across the line to score his first victory of the day in front of a very happy Giovanardi, I think.
It's going to be 2 wins for Chevrolet, 2 wins for Racing Silverline, but it's victory for Jason Plato. He's going to beat Maurizio Giovanardi across the line here to take the 2nd win of the day. Giovanardi in 2nd place. Jackson, our earlier winner, gets another podium.
Is Turkington going to hold on to 4th, though?
That's a good question. We're waiting for Turkington to come through. And I think he is, yeah. Turkington, there he is in 4th place. Nash got beaten in the end. He dropped back several places. So, in fact, it's Chilton 5th. A superb 5th for Chilton. Jordan 6th. Adam 7th. Herbert 8th. Collard 9th. Of course, Nash in the gravel trap up at the top at Beckett's. So that brings everybody up the place. And that brings Paul O'Neill into 10th place.
Yeah, well, we'll see how many get reversed, obviously, for the last thing. But knowing Alan Gow and the powers that he has, it wouldn't surprise me to see the top 8 reversed and Mr. Herbert on pole position.
Yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't it? But it's Jason Plato winning again, and that was a masterly drive there, Tim, from Jason Plato. Pretty much as expected in some ways, but he dealt with those tricky conditions well.
Yeah, very good. Those are the most difficult conditions for any driver. In changeable conditions on slick tyres. Shame for James Nash, great first race and unlucky in the second. Now here we see the 2 of them. Now they should be able to run side by side, and Nash actually has the inside. Does he pull across on Chilton a little bit to take a normal line. Maybe he didn't know he was there, I'm not sure, but he certainly had room on his right-hand side there to sort of defend the corner.
So there's James out of the race. That's a shame because he's had such a good weekend so far. But we're on board with Jason Plato as he ticks off win number 49 of his career. The big 5-0 is beckoning. I wonder if he can do that in race 3. So Plato wins the second race of the day from Giovanardi. Matt Jackson in third. Turkington holding on well in the Team RAC car to finish fourth. Chilton a superb fifth for Team Aon, their best result of the season in the Focus. Andrew Jordan sixth ahead of Johnny Adam. Johnny Herbert in the points for the first time. Rob Collard and Paul O'Neill. Just outside the points, Harry Volkard in 11th, then Stephen Jenny, Tom Onslow Cole and Anthony Reid. And then James Nash in the gravel, I'm afraid. Martin Bell had to come into the pits. Dave Pickney also had problems early on. John George and Matt Neal. So in the standings, Giovanardi's managed to just gain a couple more points back on Turkington. It's down to 7 points, the gap that came in. It was 9 points at the start of the day. How's it going to finish? We're going to have to wait and see what happens in race 3. Plato, though, still in the hunt. Look, he keeps himself in there with a victory there. And with another race here today, another 6 races after this one, Plato could still do it. Right, let's get down to the pits and some reaction with Louise.
Well, a storming drive there from Jason Plato. He had to settle for second place in race 1, but he's gone one better in the tricky conditions to take the victory. A victory that the team all very much enjoyed as well. Take your helmet off, Jason, and just tell us a word about that race and about how tricky the conditions were for you out there. Just move out of the way of Gio. Just tell us a bit about the conditions out there,
well,
Jason.
The conditions at the beginning of the race were pretty much as we expected, dry really. A little bit down on grip, but only a tiny bit. But then it started to rain quite heavily, and it got progressively worse. So it was quite tricky. Well done, mate. It was quite tricky to each lap. You had to pull the pace back just very slightly. The difficulty is if with the front-wheel drive car, if you lock the front brakes, you lose the engine. So it was a real flirting with the edge really, because I knew Fabrizio in these conditions the Vauxhall has really good pace, but my racing Silverline Lechetti was mint.
At what point did you become aware of Fabrizio coming up behind you? At what point did you see him appearing in your rearview mirror?
Well, I saw him behind Matt for a few laps, and then I saw Matt went wide. I think it was down out of Cops, and Fabrizio got really close. Well, I knew then he was going to be a threat, but you know, I knew I had 3 or 4 laps where I could just make sure, drive a little bit conservatively so I didn't make a mistake. Because you know, if you knock back a couple of tenths in each corner, that might equal 8 tenths over a lap. If you make a mistake, that could be 2 seconds. So it was just a case of pacing the gap.
The case to make.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, if you were driving conservatively, it certainly didn't look as though you were, Fabrizio. That was a storming drive.
Yeah, I couldn't drive carefully. Because it wasn't leading, so I just to pass the car in front. I've lost too much time against him, but it didn't make a mistake, as it normally is. I just try, but no way.
I mean, the front-wheel drive, definitely the car to have in those conditions, but nonetheless, it's still kind of been very easy out there.
In the beginning, when it started raining, the BMW, I think it was a little bit faster than us, and then the rain comes more. And so they've been struggling to put the power on the tarmac, so as well.
Great result as far as the championship's concerned.
I don't know, we'll see.
Let's have a final quick word with that. Matt, a little bit frustrated after that one?
Yeah, obviously we're in the dry, we'd got the legs and we stretched a bit of a gap. I saw Jason come in and fair play. He drove a good race. He's on fire at the moment, and I think it was an interesting race. Certainly from where I was sat, it was interesting. Obviously the grip levels are changing all the time, so it's difficult. But well, Gio's on fire, isn't he?
Gio certainly was on fire. Well done anyway, and we will see what the Bowl of Destiny has in store for you, because we'll be making the draw for reverse grid after this break.